we can leverage these platforms to generate quicker, better, more oversized results for our clients. It's changing rapidly, and it creates a little bit of fear and trepidation for some agencies. They feel like, oh man, is an AI platform going to be able to take everything we do?
I get asked all the time, does this mean I can fire my marketing agency? Well, you can, but I wouldn't do it because your marketing agency plus AI is going to be so much better than you plus AI in the marketing world.
I think you can use AI in the immediate moment to get quicker answers, to find stuff faster, but I think you still want to have a human being that you can talk to.
That opportunity to sit down and break bread with somebody is really something entirely different. And I'm wondering if, candidly, those moments are going to become even more impactful as we move forward.
The better you understand that customer, the better you can craft messaging that resonates. And what's really cool when we think about that from an AI context, like you can really use AI to help you flesh that out. You don't learn how to ride a bicycle at a seminar. You can watch videos about AI, you can go to workshops about AI, but until you start using the tools, you're not going to be in motion and you won't learn anything, you won't figure out how to use anything.
Hi, and welcome to the 91-Day AI Transformation Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Mast, and I am so thrilled today. I have got one of the favorite coaches that I have ever worked with in my entire life here, Josh Nelson from Seven Figure Agency. Josh and I met back, Josh, I think it was in 2021, in the fall of 2021. We met down in Miami at an event you had, and you totally changed my mindset. At the time, I had an agency and all that Beth and I were running, and you totally changed everything for us in a positive way and helped us move from that grind of getting to seven figures on a project basis and taught us how to do so on a monthly recurring. Obviously, a lot's transpired in the last 4 years since that happened. And I'm just thankful for you taking the time to join us today to chat about agencies and AI and all that. For those that may be in my audience that may not be familiar with you, Josh, would you give just a little bit of background on you and who you serve?
Absolutely. And thanks for having me. Congratulations on all your success and all the amazing things you've been up to. I run Seven Figure Agency, which is the coaching and mentorship program for digital marketing agencies looking to grow and scale. And I also run my agency, Plumbing and HVAC SEO, which is a niche specialized agency working with plumbing and HVAC contractors.
Excellent. Yeah. And again, for those of you, if you are in the agency business, let me just say, if you are not part of Josh's community, you are missing the boat. I so wish I had found it years earlier. Josh knows this. He and I've talked. There are a lot of coaches in the agency world. No one beats what Josh and his team do at Seven Figure Agency. They are amazing. In fact, we were just talking pre-call, Josh, it's some of the things that I learned at Seven Figure Agency that planted some of the seeds that have allowed me to just be blessed and have the opportunities I have today. But this isn't so much about me. I want to really focus on agencies. Obviously, a couple of years ago, AI wasn't even on the scene. And, I was sitting on a mastermind call, and I remember Will Hankey, who I know is still part of Seven Figure Agency, made a comment in the fall of 2022 about this new ChatGPT thing. And I thought it was like a web chat, much like the Go High Level web chat or something. So I didn't pay any attention to it. Obviously, fast forward, it's changed a lot. When it first came out, I still was in the agency world. We saw agencies that loved it and embraced it. We saw agencies that were like, whoa, no, I'm not going there. I'm really curious because I've been out of that agency world now for a couple of years. What's happening now with agencies and AI, and what are kind of some of the general thoughts that are going on in the agency world related to it?
Yeah, I think obviously it's changing rapidly, and it creates a little bit of fear and trepidation for some agencies. They feel like, oh man, is an AI platform going to be able to take everything we do? Now, a lot of agencies do websites, SEO, blog posts, video scripting, and they used to do that manually. That was a big part of the lift. And the fear is, well, man, if somebody could just type in a prompt and have all of that stuff done, where do we fit into the equation? And I do think, though, that a lot of the agencies that are a little more progressive, hopefully the members of Seven Figure Agency are thinking about it like, well, that's really exciting because that means we can leverage AI. We can leverage these platforms to generate quicker, better, more oversized results for our clients, reducing our cost, but giving us more financial resources to deploy into other areas that we can use to get even better results for our clients. So I think, it's either something you're afraid of or something you're really excited about. and ideally we're on the excited side of the spectrum and really embracing like what are these new tools, what are these new platforms, and that's where following guys like yourself is so great because you're like on the cutting edge of these platforms and how to leverage the platforms for our clients.
Well, it's been interesting to see how that's transpired. My belief, I think, as you know, Josh, is that AI amplifies skill and experience. So, I get asked all the time, does this mean I can fire my marketing agency? Well, you can, but I wouldn't do it because your marketing agency knows so much more about what they're doing already. So your marketing agency plus AI is going to be so much better than you plus AI in the marketing world. At least that's my core belief because I could learn a lot about cardiology, but if you were to allow me to act as a heart surgeon, that probably would not be the wisest move either of us ever made, despite what ChatGPT taught me along the way. And so I definitely see that. I know some of the members that I'm still in touch with. In fact, I was just supposed to talk to Tony Ricketts yesterday, and then I got caught out, and we're going to reschedule and chat. I know are really embracing it. I know some others maybe not so much. Can you talk to me a little bit about what are the agencies that are embracing it? What type of success are they seeing? I'm especially curious about scalability because from my perspective, I would think AI would really help agencies scale a lot better, but I'm not in that world anymore. So tell me, what are you seeing?
Yeah, I think a lot of agencies are kind of like if you talk about on the far side of implementation and getting maximized results is probably someone like Tony Ricketts, right? That really understands not just ChatGPT, the interface, but understands how to program behind the scenes and gets all the logic behind it. And I think for someone like him, he's serving more clients with less staff, improving his profitability, and it's having a huge impact. I think the agencies that are even a little bit less advanced, but have already embraced, well, how do we create like ICPs, ideal client profiles, in ChatGPT and or Claude for our own agency, for ideal clients to create better emails, better social posts, better blog content, better persuasive email copy and workflows, and then also how do we create like custom ICPs for our clients on a client by client basis so that we can do that better and do that quicker. I'm seeing the clients that do that are generating better quality content. And it's taking a lot less time. And so they're able to get either more done or get more done for less.
Yeah, and I can definitely see that happening. You work, I know, with literally hundreds of agencies, Josh. Are you seeing that any of them are still hesitant? Are there still hesitations out there to get in? And I live kind of in an echo chamber, so it may sound like a dumb question, but to me, everybody's doing it. But I know that's not the reality when I see the stats. What are you seeing with your agencies that you're working with?
I think most of the agencies we work with are using, AI at some level. They may not have like fully deployed all of the things that they could potentially be doing with AI, but they're definitely, leveraging it for content, for web design builds, for reporting simplification. And I would say that's probably like 80 or 90% are already taking the ball and running it down the track at some level.
Very cool. Very cool. From a coaching perspective, obviously you're not only an agency owner, but you're also one of the most successful coaches I know. Are you seeing it impact your coaching business at all?
Well, I mean, we're trying to figure out how do we use AI to make it easier to find the content. Like we've got a lot of training sessions and workshops that we've done over the years to create quick find. Hey, how do I get to the exact thing that I need right now? We've given it a lot of context, like the transcripts of our sessions, the transcripts of our book, so that we can actually start to answer questions, without having to interface directly with the coach. We don't have that fully fleshed out yet, but that's definitely where we want to make it easier for the members to get quick, easy answers to questions so that they can solve problems and, get down the track quicker.
Well, and there's a balance there. I mean, one of the things that you guys do so well in 7FA is the coaches that you have, the people that have already walked the path, been successful, that I can come into as an agency and work with. And obviously, you don't want to give that up either. I know that's a fear that a lot of business owners have. It's like, what am I going to lose that personal touch? I'd love your perspective again from both sides, agency and coach. How do you see that melding of personal touch and AI coming together and fitting? Because I do believe at some point there's going to be that intersection. We're going to have to figure that out. I'm just curious what you think about that, Josh.
I think you can use AI in the immediate moment to get quicker answers, to find stuff faster. But I think you still want to have a human being that you can talk to that has experience, that can understand your situation, that can like give you feedback based on your
Hmm.
existing context. And so we're using AI to get to the quick, easy stuff faster, but we still want that one-on-one time to really understand the situation and provide wisdom.
Mm. Makes so much sense, and it certainly fits the way I think about it. I mean, I just literally got back from two different masterminds, and one of the things I thought is, the things we learned there, a lot of it I could have learned online, I could have done there, but much like your events, and you taught me this when you were coaching, that opportunity to sit down and break bread with somebody, to share a drink, to just sit across and have that face-to-face conversation is really something entirely different. And I'm wondering if, candidly, those moments are going to become even more impactful as we move forward because so many of us are going to be going to AI first or online, and that line is kind of melding between those two. What's your perspective on that in-person connections that we can make?
Yeah, I don't think there's any replacement for live in person, because like you just said, like we could watch a video and it could very well be AI, right? And you don't really know
Yeah.
who's human. You kind of crave that personal one-to-one time, and that was one of the reasons we do live events, because we know breakthroughs happen live and in person. Just the mental space that you get, the clarity that you get, and those conversations in real world relationships that develop can't be replaced. At least I don't see it being replaced by AI.
No, I would agree with you. I don't think it's going to. I think it's going to augment and maybe amplify what can be done there. And certainly, thinking of speed to implementation, it's going to allow us to implement sometimes faster than what we've been able to do before. But yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. So apart from AI, Josh, obviously there's a lot more to what you do than just AI. It's one of those topics I'm interested in. I'm really curious from your perspective as we take a look. A lot of our audience is entrepreneurial, and
Hmm.
they're looking at growing their business. They're not all agencies, a lot are, but not all. What are some of the core tenets that you have found really haven't changed over the years that you've been doing coaching that are still so important that businesses be looking at, especially in the age of AI where we hear every time we get on social media, there's a new shortcut, there's a new prompt to let us do this faster, but those basics still matter. What are some of those basics that you're still teaching and you think are critical for entrepreneurs to be paying attention to?
I think at the end of the day, when it comes to marketing, it always comes back to market, message, and media, right? Which is,
Mm,
who's your market? Who do you serve? Like, get really clear on that. What's the message that that market wants, that needs, that they resonate with, that is unique to your organization? And then media is like, where are they hanging out, right? Are they on Google, or are they on Facebook? Are they searching ChatGPT or some other generative engine? And I think if you always go back to that, market, message, media, you're always going to be able to stand out. You're always going to be able to connect with your customers. You're always going to have an opportunity for accelerated growth.
it makes a lot of sense. I know at one of your recent Miami conventions, you actually had Marcus Sheridan speak,
Mm-hmm.
the author of They Ask You Answer.
Yeah.
I've always found that book was one of those that just struck me as, wow, this is so simple and so straightforward, and yet so incredibly impactful. Um, how do you feel that, going back to market and message you were just talking about, how does what Marcus teaches there about understanding those questions that your audience is asking and then answering them, how
Mm-hmm.
important is that for agencies today?
Extremely important. I think it's important for them to attract clients. It's also important, to serve their clients better. The better you understand that customer, the better you can craft messaging that resonates. And what's really cool when we think about that from an AI context, like you can really use AI to help you flesh that out, to really enter the
Mm,
mind of that customer and understand their fears, their frustrations, the challenges that they're trying to solve, what they're doing today, what they've tried in the past, and then use that to craft amazing messaging that will resonate with them. Enter the conversation already going on in their head, and you can create it in so many different modalities, from social media posts to blog posts to even video scripts and/or AI generated video content. But yeah, I think when you go back to the fundamentals and leverage AI to help you really go deep with it.
that makes so much sense. I appreciate that. You've written a number of great books. The most recent one that I've read, and I don't know if it is the most recent one, was your Client Retention Handbook, talking
Yeah.
about how to retain clients. And to me, that's where these messages start to really make sense, because one of the things you talked about in that book, and I may misquote you, and please correct me if I'm wrong. It's been at least a year since I read it, but most clients leave not because they're unhappy. They leave because they don't feel cared for. and again, I'm not sure I'm getting that quite right. How do we leverage things that Marcus teaches and AI and all that to fix that cared for issue that, again, I believe, like you, causes so much of that client churn?
Yeah, I mean, I think they kind of go hand in hand. I mean, the concept is the main reason they leave is because of perceived indifference, right? And if you're only using
Mm,
automated reporting and you're only, like sending automatic messages, then the client's going to feel like they're just a number on a spreadsheet somewhere, and that's going to lead to churn. And so, really understanding, we're going to meet with the client in person on Zoom like this. We're going to have conversations. We're going to understand where they're at, what their goals are. Are we accomplishing those goals? Give feedback, get feedback, and don't just leave it to the business stuff. Like, have an open ear to life change events, right? Did they just get married? Was there some cool thing that happened in their life? And recognize that, and or invest in your team having the ability to buy gifts or send, very customized messages based on what's going on in their life. That way they know that you care, and it can
hmm
really reduce the amount of perceived indifference that customer or client may be experiencing. And I think, as that relates to they ask you answer and that whole framework from Endless Customers, which is the new version of the book, you know, the people online have very specific things they're asking. And if you can just create the answers and be more persuasive with answering those questions and meeting them where they're at, whether that's talking about your pricing or whether that's giving them an opportunity to self-assess online, you're going to be closer to the experience that they're looking for, which means you're probably going to get the lead and or the sale.
No, it makes so much sense, and I love how it all fits together. To me, it's like this puzzle. And then you start realizing that, like Venn diagrams, these circles start crossing over each other, and there is so much overlap as you do that.
Yeah.
One of the things I'd love to ask you. So, in my time working with you and Yesenia and your team, you guys did so many things right. I mean, without a doubt, top notch. But one of the things that always stood out was you guys seem to have mastered the gift part of it. I know there's a great book out called Giftology, but
Mhm.
you guys always had the right gift at the right time and the right amount, never seeming like you were trying to buy anything from anybody, but just an appropriate thought that just, it's like, wow, Josh and Yesenia, you were thinking about this situation. You were aware of things that are going on. I'd love to have you, if you wouldn't mind, share a little bit. How did you develop that, and how have you maintained that? Because it seems, as somebody who's worked with you before, I got to admit that it's like you're almost inside my head understanding what's going on and thinking. And it's at that time that a box of chocolate covered strawberries or a book or something like that shows up that's always perfectly timed. If you don't mind sharing your secrets, I'd love to learn how did that start, and how have you mastered that skill?
Yeah, I think it started with just the book Giftology and recognizing that clients are going to leave because of perceived indifference, and having the recognition that just doing the job or whatever they're paying you for doesn't necessarily lead to retention. It's the things that you do that they're not expecting that kind of hit them, that they're like, wow, they really do care, right? And they are paying attention. And so, tactically speaking, whenever somebody does sign up, we want to send them a gift, right? And a physical gift, because we all live in a digital world. We get emails and we get cool online access, but we very rarely get something in a physical form. So we send like a welcome box and we send some goodies into the mail. And then, because most of our clients we're engaging with on either Zoom sessions or on Facebook, because we're very active in Facebook community,
hmm
we're able to see, we're able to hear, hey, we can see that they just got married, or they just sold their business, or they just, had some other life event happen. And we've got people on the team that are looking for those opportunities, and we seek those opportunities, say, hey, this is our chance to send something, right? And like you said, not to buy retention or not to try and, go overboard, but just to show that we're paying attention and that we care. And that it seems like that goes a long ways.
Well, it is definitely one of the things that I found so memorable in working with you and your team. Again, it was always amazing to me at just the right time when something would happen, and the uniqueness of some of those gifts that were just mind blowing. Even I remember back to when Beth sold the agency, she got this amazing plaque from you guys that was like a star chart on the day of that and what had happened. And I'm like, wow, what a cool idea. And had a great, inscription, and then, always a personal note. So just one of the areas, again, I think you guys have done an amazing job, but one of many. But it's also one that's very unique, because as I work with other organizations and other coaches and that now that I'm doing a lot of speaking, something I rarely see, at least not done to the level that you guys have done. So kudos on just doing an amazing job and embracing what you teach. I think that's always one of the things that's caused me so much just incredible respect for what you do, Josh, is you don't just have something that you preach to people and then you go do your own thing. You guys are implementing and living out the exact same things that you teach other agencies to do. And I think that's such a powerful statement in today's society when, it's really easy to go stand in front of somebody else's Learjet or somebody else's Lamborghini and talk about how successful you're being. So again, thank you for that and for what you've done in those contexts. I think that's been so important.
Thank you.
As we kind of get ready to bring the plane in for landing, I'd like to talk a little bit about personal branding. As an agency owner, I know it's incredibly important. As an entrepreneur, it's incredibly important. But especially, as you mentioned a little bit earlier, now with AI, we don't necessarily know whether that video is real or, dating myself, if it's Memorex, and is it fake? And you again have done an incredible job of building a very strong personal brand. My belief is that one of the reasons that personal brand's needed isn't business-wise, but it's actually asset protection. And that if you have a strong personal brand and somebody creates some fake video, news bit, audio of you, it's a whole lot easier for you to stand up and go, look, that's just not me. That's not me. And your audience is going to go, yeah, that's right. That's not Josh. That's just not that's not who he is. I'd love your perspective on that. And that we've not talked. So I don't know if that's been part of your process or part of your thinking and all, but you've done an amazing job of building that brand. What is your perspective as it comes to fake news, fake media, all that, on the importance of business leaders having a strong personal brand?
Yeah, I hadn't even considered it as a way to kind of inoculate yourself from fake news. But that's a really interesting perspective. I've always thought of it as, people want to do business with people they know, like, and trust, right? And they're willing to pay a premium to do with who they think is the best of the best, the most professional, the most known person within their industry. And the only way that you get that type of positioning is if you put yourself out there, right? And so you have to develop that personal brand. And so you've got to show up on short form. You got to show up on long form. You got to do interviews. You've got to, create case studies. You got to advocate for your clients. I think, one of the things I really believe in is if you can make your client the hero and really put them out in front, or like, here's the client, here's their success, here's their win, make it all about them. That is a great way to build your authority and to create your personal positioning. In terms of somebody faking, deep faking you potentially online, I don't have any answers for that at this point.
No, understood. And it's a whole new area that I don't think is going to be as dangerous as some people think it is, but I do think it's something to be aware of. And again, I was just curious with that, since you mentioned that, and again, you and Yusena have both done a beautiful job of building that brand. And I think that's important because it does make it a whole lot easier to go to your audience at that point and go, look, that's just not who I am. You know that. And your audience is going to go, yeah, it's just not the way it works. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Josh, for agency owners that are interested in learning what you do, and I will say, if you're an agency owner listening to this podcast and you have not had a talk with Josh or his team, I cannot recommend it highly enough. You made a tremendous difference in our business when we had our agency. What's the best way for people to reach out and get in touch with you, Josh?
The best way is probably to go to sevenfigureagency.com. We've got a lot of resources there. You can grab a copy of our book. You can just schedule a time to connect. And that's a great place to start.
Fantastic. And one final question as we bring things in that I love to ask everybody. For that entrepreneur, that agency owner who's out there that is still kind of sitting on the sidelines, maybe they're using ChatGPT a little bit, maybe they're trying to figure out where it fits. What advice do you have for them as we're recording this, we're heading into the final quarter of 2025. What advice do you have for them on what should they, as a successful business owner looking to scale, what should they be considering as it comes to putting together and planning an AI implementation?
I think that, like, the best analogy I can say is you don't learn how to ride a bicycle at a seminar, right? You can watch videos about AI, you can go to workshops about AI, but until you start using the tools, you're not going to be in motion and you won't learn anything. You won't figure out how to use anything. So the most important thing is to get yourself into motion, right? Get on the bicycle, fall off a couple times, scrape your knees, and start to figure out like what are the challenges you need to solve within your business right now, and how can AI help you to do that quicker, better, more efficiently.
I love that. That's great. That's great. You mentioned you can't learn to do that at a seminar. I'm curious. It reminds me of one of the first sales books I read. You can't teach a kid to ride a bicycle at a seminar. Have you ever read
Exactly.
that one by David Sandler?
Yeah, that was the prompt for the
I
analogy.
love it. I love that. Yeah, just one of those many, many great tomes I've read over the years. Josh,
Mhm.
thank you so much for your time today. I know you're incredibly busy. As a final recommendation, if you're listening to this podcast, do yourself a favor and connect with Josh and his team. I don't normally just wholeheartedly, unabashedly recommend somebody. I do Josh and his team. They have been so incredibly amazing. I thank you all for joining us on the podcast today. We just so cherish you. Give us a thumbs up, like the podcast, tell us what you think. We really welcome your feedback. With that, we'll call it a day and we'll see everybody on the other side. Thanks, everyone.